Yep. We live.
We're live. All right. CABC family. Usually I'm the one waiting around for these fine gentlemen, but today, as you can tell with me driving, they're ready to roll, and I was not. So, bit of a different type of pod, but we're going to get it in regardless. CABC live on the road / in the office / in the home office for you on this Thursday. A lot to get to, and we really want to start from a recruiting perspective because there's some breaking news, there is some updated visitor list news that we want to get to, and maybe the hardest hitting one from the Alabama perspective is actually a negative. Daxton Hill pops to Michigan. Bama fan Dave, what do we make of this?
Honestly, I was kind of shocked when Tuesday night, Twitter, Dax Hill put out a commitment tweet. The talk around was that, hey, he went on this Michigan official visit this weekend. He had a great time, of course, like most kids do on official visits. And word was that he was going to still take a couple of visits. He was going to wait to make his announcement, his commitment, and that would favor Bama, and they had a chance to get him back on campus once before he made that commitment. But kind of shocking that he committed. And yeah, this is not good news. I mean, this is a kid that's a high ceiling, high floor, someone I could see going in the first round 3 years. So it's a big loss. And honestly, I don't know where they turn after this because there's no one on the board that's got Dax Hill type of talent.
What about your boy from Arizona?
He's good. I think he's more of a cornerback. Possibly could play safety, but he's the only cornerback in the class out of all the DB commits. The rest of them are slated to play safety / nickel. So maybe Nick Cross, teammate of DeMarco Helms, an Alabama commit out of the Martha Catholic in Maryland. But yeah, this is a blow, no doubt.
Yeah. Another one that I'm wondering if you have to take a safety in the class, what about Christian Williams? You already got him committed. Kid out of Daphne and Mobile, alma mater of T.J. Yeldon. The more and more we get a look at this kid, I mean, the more safety read I get in evaluating him. 6'1", long, fairly physical, good ball skills, plays receiver as well. I think he's kind of a Shaheem Carter type, but we're seeing Shaheem play a little bit more safety as well. But either way, I think you're right, Dave. This is not a Daxton Hill. He was the cream of the crop in this class. So where does Bama move on in terms of priority positions? Do you bail on safety altogether? How do you attack this thing?
Well, I think they have 3 safeties committed right now. You have DeMarco Helms, you have Christian Williams, like you said. There's a guy who could play nickel / safety, more of a safety than a cornerback right now. And you have a commitment out of Mississippi, Brandon Turnage, who's looked really good his senior season. Another one who Bama thinks could play safety. So they have 3 safeties committed. I don't know if they turn to another person to say, hey, we're going to bring on a 4th safety in this class. I think that spot goes to possibly another offensive lineman or another defensive lineman, other areas of need. So, yeah, it's a loss. Dax Hill they would have taken despite the 3 guys that they have committed at safety. He's that kind of talent. But, yeah, that frees up a spot for somewhere else, which possibly could be more of a need than safety.
Yeah, so Daxton Hill, I mean, he's taken his official visits. He's made his commitment. It seems like he may be done, but obviously a long way to go until the early signing day in December or possibly the traditional signing day. But that leads us into this weekend. It's 48 hours away from Alabama hosting Texas A&M. The visitor list is growing every single day. Producer Kev, are we updated on the visitor list? Any new names? Any more confirmed guys headed to Tuscaloosa? Because I think that's going to be something special here.
Today, the newest one today is going to be, there was the announcement that the Alabama commit George Pickens is going to be on campus. Or Auburn commit, I'm sorry. Auburn commit George Pickens is going to be on campus. And as far as I know, the visitor list includes all of the in-state commits: Talia, Paul Tyson, Pierce Quick. Then we got Kayvon Thibodeau is coming for his official visit. And I'm trying to pull up.
Wandale Robinson.
Wandale Robinson is going to be there for his official visit. So yeah, it's a really big weekend for the Tide as far as their commitment list goes, and their top targets moving forward. Also, Nakobe Dean is going to be on campus. I know that's been a big target for the Tide going in the last couple weeks. So he will be on campus as well.
Yeah, pretty big stuff. I mean, Dean, I would still probably put Dean up there as the top guy. I think he is.
Yeah, I think so.
He's the biggest need for Bama in this class, inside linebacker. You don't know what the future holds with Matt Wilson. Will he stay? Will he go? I think that remains to be seen. But playing devil's advocate, if he leaves, there's one spot immediately open with not a lot of proven experience thereafter. Although Ale Cajo on the roster as a late addition to the 2018 class, I think is a little bit of insurance there, a little bit more insurance than any of us anticipated, at least initially looking at this 2018 team. So we'll see how he develops. But Nakobe Dean's going to be a war. Thibodeau's going to be a war. He's the interesting kid in terms of the timing. His official visit is coming on the heels of a Florida State meltdown, and this is the perceived leader. He's a California kid, but it wasn't USC, it wasn't Oregon, even though they're in his top group. Florida State has had tangible momentum. So you wonder if the timing of it and how quickly this became, hey, I'm going to Bama, to now it's an official visit. You wonder how much that could potentially have impacted Alabama's ambition on getting him on campus for multiple days. So now, in theory, early Saturday morning flights, he's on campus all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and could theoretically fly back Monday morning, depending on his schedule there at Oaks Christian. So he's definitely going to be the headliner, number one player in the 24/7 Sports composite rankings, and a legitimate game breaker on the edge that I don't think Alabama has quite added to its commitment list in this class of 2019, I should say. So obviously that's big. What are you thinking with Talia, Kev? You just mentioned him, Talia Tagovailoa, putting up monster numbers early on, just one loss. Are you hearing any more talk, message boards, Twitter, anything about him liking LSU, Tennessee, like we were hearing a lot in the summer? Like he told me in the summertime. Any more buzz about that, or is that kind of dead?
I haven't seen anything recently with any other schools catching love. I think he's doing what a lot of guys do, and they focus on their season during season. I haven't heard any buzz about LSU recently. I know the Tide was kind of worried. It kind of worried them because I remember back in the summer he was supposed to be somewhere, and he ended up in Tennessee, and he took a visit to Tennessee with the family and everything. So, but I haven't heard anything recently as far as developments in that. I think the Tide are still strong leaders in that category, but I haven't heard anything recently.
Do you think Tua's situation has had anything to do with that? I mean, remember in the summer we didn't really know. Even though we knew, we didn't know.
Yeah, I think since Tua has, they've obvious Tua is going to be the starter moving forward. I think that helps the Talia situation. I mean, I think if they would have made it and Tua would have transferred, I think that would have hurt the Talia situation. But I think with him being the starter, I definitely think it gives him a leg up in the Talia battle.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting how that story died pretty much as soon as it got legs. Tennessee and LSU do have quarterbacks already verbally committed for what it's worth, but obviously so does Alabama with Leah and Paul Tyson. But
Yeah.
I always think we kind of overlook the in-state guys returning to campus, not only how important it is for them to recruit others, but also for them to kind of stay in the boat, stay on board. I mean, just looking in state, I mean, last week that Auburn LSU game was the game in the SEC, and even without even digging into it, I know Amari Kite was there, Dalen Worsham was there, Jason Jones, the number one player in 2020, was there, even though Auburn has yet to offer the potential five-star there from Calera High School, much to the question marks of a lot of people in the state. However, he was in Auburn at that game day atmosphere, which obviously was a big one with LSU in town, close game, national TV game, all of those things. So anytime you can rebound from that and get kids on campus, your own kids committed on campus, it's still important, even though it's kind of the expectation when you think of the Pierce Quicks of the world. It looks like we got Bama fan Dave back in on us. Dave, we were talking about Talia. There was so much buzz about these other schools, but it seems like that has died down. We were wondering how much Tua's emergence or ability to solidify that quarterback position has played into that.
I would think it does. I mean, if you're his little brother and you're his family and you're seeing what Tua's doing with the offense, the weapons that they have, with the Dan Enos coming in as a quarterback coach under Mike Locksley, how do you not like what you see, right? So I think he sticks. I don't think there's any concern with the visits he's taken. Kids going through the process. Maybe he wants to see some other schools like his brother did, right? I think Tua took some visits before he committed. I know he took some visits. So I think it's just part of the process for them. No worries on his commitment from me.
Yeah, quick note on Tua. I saw, I think Cole Kublik tweeted it out. He said, Tua Tagovailoa and Jake Fromm have combined to take zero snaps in the fourth quarter of any game this year. So through 6 combined games, 0 combined fourth quarter snaps. And obviously that's interesting to Alabama because you had the one kid you had committed in Jake Fromm and the kid that you got to replace him with Tua Tagovailoa. Both of those guys have yet to take a fourth quarter snap. Obviously they dueled last year in the Natty, and it would surprise nobody to see them duel in the SEC title game. So kind of a crazy stat as to how good Alabama and Georgia have been on both sides of the ball so far this year. But another in-state guy, we were talking about guys who were at Auburn last week who are now going to Bama this week in terms of recruiting visits. George Pickens, I mean, this is a guy who Bama has struggled to get on campus, even though he's about an hour away in Hoover. Dave, any shot here? I mean, this guy has been committed forever. Everybody else wants him, but he hasn't taken a ton of visits recently. So if the Hank South report from Bama Online is true, how important is this for Bama? And you talked about it. Another spot is open. Could wide receiver be a spot where maybe we see Bama get more aggressive?
Oh, it's huge. Anytime you get an Auburn commit coming to the Alabama game, that's big news. You know how much Justin Malzone hates when his commits take visits to Alabama. So, yeah, he's definitely a kid to watch down the stretch. Alabama likes to – they really want to add another big wide receiver, and he fits the mold. Was 6'3", 210 pounds. So, yeah, he's someone that they want bad in this class, and it's always nice to flip an Auburn commit, right? So, yeah, he's definitely one to watch.
Well, I mean, when was the last big flip? When was the last one?
Is that Rashawn Evans? Well, he wasn't committed.
Yeah, Ruben? You got to go back to Ruben?
A long time ago.
Wow.
Quinn Williams.
Oh, Quinn Williams, yeah. There you go. Yeah, that guy who, people were giving us crap for saying was the best player on the defense. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, it's crazy. We haven't had a lot of Iron Bowl drama the last few years, and now it looks like it could drum up just a little bit with George Pickens. I think he's the perfect recruit to kind of get it going again. He's a receiver. He plays that outspoken position. Big, strong cat that everybody in the country likes. Like, it's not hard to find the talent with George Pickens. It's kind of like Justin Ross last year and a couple of guys years prior. you don't have to be Bill Belichick to recognize the talent that George Pickens has, and he's been able to do it on a national scale. So that'll be interesting to see how he plays out. First of all, if he gets to Tuscaloosa, because he's been a guy kind of like Demetrius Robertson from a few years back, where he's confirmed for visit X, Y, and Z, and then he doesn't show up. So that's one Saturday morning to stay on Bama Online for, stay on Twitter to see, hey, did George show up in Tuscaloosa? I get the sense he would. I think Robbie Ashford will probably go with him. Will Reichert, the Alabama kicker commitment as well from that Hoover contingent. I was actually on a phone with a source in Tuscaloosa last night, so Wednesday night, who said, Florida State was the top threat to Auburn, but just like we said with Kayvon Thibodeau, this early season cannot be favorable to FSU on the recruiting trail. So if it hurts with Thibodeau, maybe it hurts with Pickens. And for Bama to get both of those guys on campus Saturday, at least in theory, that seems about as big as it can be for an early season game.
Yeah, so we got there's a couple questions in the live stream. Who's your comparison for Talia?
Oh boy, not Tua. Should I just leave it there?
Yeah, I mean,
his arm. Arm strength wise, he might have a stronger arm than Tua, and I know that will alarm some folks, but unfortunately for Leah, that's the only area where he is better, in my opinion. Maybe, some people say mentally he's ahead at the same stage, but, that's a little unquantifiable and a little unfair to Tua because we weren't around him as much as we're around Talia. We were around Tua briefly the summer before his senior year, before that Elite 11 run, and we were with him at the Army Bowl at the very end of his high school career. With Talia, it's been multiple years on both coasts where our guys have had a pretty close relationship with the kid. So I think some of that is the unknown with Tua. But everywhere else, Tua's bigger, stronger, more athletic. Whatever that is, Tua has had a little bit more of it. But Talia's arm is very, very strong. He is savvy. The player comp thing is hard. He's a shorter quarterback. I don't know, like a miniature Jay Cutler. Like, is that a weird thing to say?
Miniature.
Yeah, I mean, Jay Cutler's a 6'2", 6'3", 230-pound guy.
Yeah.
Talia's 5'11" on his best day of his life. So I'm not sure where the clear comparison lies there, but he's still young. He's still growing. I mean, I think Tua's grown a little bit since college. So I'm not saying there's no hope for Talia. He's a legitimate blue chip recruit, but a straight comparison to his brother is unfair, and I don't really think there's a no-brainer comp outside of his brother.
No, I'm not seeing a comp, but maybe a slower Kyler Murray. That makes sense.
They're similar in height.
I mean, like, size are similar. They both have strong arms. Kyler's much faster, as you know, much better athlete.
Right. What are you talking about as a thrower?
As a thrower and like size wise, right? Because he's not a big guy. Kyler Murray's 5'10", 5'11", 185. So in terms of frame, they're similar, but yeah, no good comps out there right now. Not many pro style guys 5'11", so it's tough to find a comp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got people talking about Pickens. Will Bama be able to flip him? Talking about we have a good. Some people think we have a good shot. Auburn told him not to visit Bama, which, I mean,
shocker.
Yeah.
That's the only school they ever don't want kids to be.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Somebody asking if we feel like Wandell's going to be on commit watch. I mean, you're on campus for official. I mean, I don't know if I'd necessarily say on commit watch, but I mean, you never know with on campus with officials once they get kids on campus. And then
I mean when a kid right now is considering Ohio State, I think there's going to be a lot of caution involved. Just like we've talked about forever with LSU. You know, kids are waiting for that season. I think kids at considering Ohio State, are waiting for this coaching situation to figure itself out, and we might not have that answer for a very long time. So either Bama just overwhelms the kid on the visit, and it's a no-brainer, which can happen, obviously, or, you know, the kid legitimately takes his time. But, heck, the last time we recorded, I said Daxton Hill was going to slow it down, and he popped before we even could record another podcast. So what do I know? But Wan'Dale Robinson's legit. Some people think he's Jalen Waddle 2.0, and any Bama fan would be happy with that.
Most definitely. So there's not much. Got a couple sense of tumors in here. What's up?
That's a tumor. How we doing, baby?
He said it's an early live today. We're live early.
Yeah. You know, like I said, my guys were ready to roll. I'm driving to Montgomery for a football game.
So my question is, you're in a car right now. So like, where are you headed exactly? I think
like it would be funny if I was just going to Walmart.
So people might
hey, guys, like come in the store with me. Let me buy these croutons. No, I'm headed to Montgomery. I've never bought croutons before. I'm headed to Montgomery, checking out a couple games in Alabama. Hadn't been in a month and a half or so. So overdue for me to get back into Alabama. For those who don't know, you know, I cover the Southeast for 24/7 Sports. Heavy in Florida, and we've focused a lot of energy there the last month. So always good to get back to Bama, which is kind of home for me, at least professionally. So we'll be in Montgomery tonight. Carver Montgomery is hosting Dothan. Carver Montgomery, of course, the alma mater of Mack Wilson, Sean Deion Hamilton, even some Auburn guys, Marlon Davidson, Jeremy Johnson, one-time Heisman favorite for a couple of minutes. So we're going to watch those guys tonight. They're 4-0. They've got 4 defensive players in the front 7 who are D1 guys. One is committed to, I believe, Arkansas State. One's committed to UAB. One is soon to be committed to a G5 school, and the best one, Keyshawn Brown, actually had an Alabama offer early on. Doesn't look like Bama is pressing, but he was a safety when Bama offered him, and now he's 225 pounds, so now he is a linebacker. So you wonder, you know, if Nakobe Dean goes south for Bama, you know, you wonder if this is one of the fallback guys. So I like him on tape. Aggressive kid. He's a striker. I think he's going to be an inside backer. So going to get my first live look at him in pads tonight. And he's actually playing linebacker now for his high school team, so that's obviously important for any linebacker projection. So wondering if he could be one of these second-tier guys that could potentially be a late addition for Alabama. Right now, I think he ends up at a Pitt or Kentucky, but things can change, obviously, when Alabama gets involved. So that's where I'm headed today. And tomorrow I'm going to see some kid named Clay Webb.
Who's that?
Oh, that guy.
That guy.
Never heard the name.
Yeah. Is Dave still with us? I thought Dave dipped out on us.
No, he's still
here.
What do you think, Dave? Clay Webb, man. There's some Georgia buzz right now.
A lot of Georgia buzz right now.
Yeah. Steve Wiltfong, Rusty Mansell are kind of on that bandwagon, and those guys don't miss a ton.
No.
But what do you think? Is this smoke or is this legit?
Sounds like Bam has a lot of work to do. That's what I'm thinking. I know his mom took her first visit, I think, the Arkansas State week, but yeah, I don't know what they got to do, but they got to get on that kid and continue to press, as well as some of the in-class recruiters, Pierce Quick, Paul Tyson. Got a lot of work ahead of them. I think he's playing center now, right? For the first time. I think last year he was playing left tackle.
He's playing guard. I was told he's playing guard finally, and he is just mowing kids over. He's been one of the interesting evals because he's played tackle his whole life in pads, but when we see him at camps, he's killing everybody as a center or a guard. But no, he's moved to guard, and they're mowing dudes down. They're undefeated. Their defense is really good at Oxford High School. They've only allowed I think 6 points all year. So they're able to run the football behind him and make plays. So excited to see him play on the inside 1,000% tomorrow evening, God willing. So big eval, a couple of days for me, but obviously we'll get some recruiting information as well. Is Keyshawn Brown hearing from Alabama at all? I would venture to think probably not, but you never know. And Clay Webb, where is he going this weekend? What is this Georgia buzz all about? Hopefully we'll be able to have some answers in the next 48 hours.
Sounds good. Yeah. All right. I'm going to drop out here. So you guys in the next pod.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you stopping by. All right, Kev, do I still have you here? Producer Kev, you still with us, buddy? All right. Looks like we might be flying solo for a little bit, which is just fine. That's kind of the foundation of the pod. I am driving through a rural area, so potentially the signal might not be at its best. But if that is the case, please bear with us. Are you there, Kev? All right, not just yet. Anyway, driving through the sticks a little bit, but you'll bear with us for just a while. No, I think Clay is going to be important for Alabama. I mean, look, this is the guy, right? This is the in-state guy. We just saw Bama miss out on the top in-state prospect for the first time since Jameis Winston left the state of Alabama for the Florida State Seminoles, Justin Ross, last year at Clemson. How big was that? We don't really know to this point. I don't think you'll see the effects on the Alabama side of the equation at this point. Obviously, the wide receiver position is very strong for the Crimson Tide right now, but going forward, we may see some repercussions of Bama missing out on Ross. But could you imagine, with Nick Saban at the helm, with a guy that they legitimately want and have wanted for multiple years, just like Justin Ross, for Bama to miss on that kid in the very next class? That is where you start to get into some interesting territory, potentially unprecedented territory, and that's the situation with Clay Webb. Georgia holds buzz. Before this recent Georgia buzz, I heard multiple sources detailing some Auburn buzz. The feeling there, the comfort level, the vibe, what makes Auburn has appealed to Clay Webb and his camp much more of late, according to a couple of sources. Now, again, this is where it gets tricky because Clay Webb doesn't say a whole lot. He's not going to say, well, right now I'm feeling Georgia the most, and we just write those stories and they're verbatim. No, there's going to be some reservation. He's going to take his time. He's not going to reveal much, and he still may not know much. You know, Clay has been very upfront in that he wants to use the allotment of the recruiting process to make his decision, which means he is going to take all of his visits. He's going to take return visits. He's going to take educational visits. He's going to do everything he can to separate one of these schools, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Clemson, maybe even LSU still, from the other ones on the list. And I think that is good for Bama at this point if the Georgia buzz is sustainable. It's tangible at this point. It is very real. It doesn't seem like it's smoke at this point. We cannot be sure, but it does not seem like it is smoke at this point. So that's something certainly that should be concerning for Alabama fans. The recruiting class is strong. It will finish top 3 at the worst in this 2019 cycle, but it is tough to imagine Bama missing out on the top kid in the state 2 years in a row. We saw what it meant for Jameis Winston in Florida State. We're seeing a lot of positivity with Justin Ross at Clemson here in the last couple of weeks. Had a huge touchdown this past Saturday. Could it happen again with Clay Webb? I would still lean towards no, only because it's Clay Webb. We don't have that type of certainty. He has never given that type of certainty. He's one that we've said for many months now, you got to believe the kid when he's talking about a December decision, when he's talking about prolonging the process and taking the entirety of these next 3 months to make this decision. So I'm going to continue to hold him at his word. despite the ebb and flow of teams that have held buzz with his recruitment. Producer Kev, how we feeling, baby?
Yeah, I mean, like we've said, he's a different cat, and I think he's gonna hold out. We got a couple questions, some more questions in the chat. Talking about, do we think Bama flips Pickering?
Yeah, I wonder who Bama fans would want more, Pickens or Pickering?
Yeah.
Both committed to SEC West schools. I think Pickering. I think they're similar in that they're pretty strong to their schools. Pickering, of course, a kid from Mississippi, committed to Mississippi State, and look, Mississippi State's pushing all the right buttons with him. He committed on somewhat of a surprise visit, but the only documented trip since has been to Tuscaloosa. So I do believe that can keep Bama in the running, and he did tell Hank South that an official visit to Tuscaloosa is still on the docket. So there's definitely still hope there. That is more tangible momentum in terms of visits than we know of George Pickens. George has hinted at official visits to Bama, has hinted at unofficial visits to Bama, but has yet to take one in quite some time. So we'll keep an eye on that one Saturday. That'd be a good one for Saturday night if Pickens makes the trip. So until Pickens gets on campus, I'm going to say Nathan Pickering is a little more flippable. They both play positions that Bama wants to add to the roster in this recruiting class. But Nathan has already visited again. He's going to visit at least one more time. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, despite Pickens being an in-state guy. So going against the grain there a little bit.
Yeah, I think Pickering would be the more flippable of the two as well at this moment. Like you said, Pickens they haven't been able to actually get him on campus. So if he does show up Saturday, maybe that'll change my mind a little bit. But like you said, they haven't gotten him on campus. Eddie wants to know about the defensive tackle from Hawaii. I'm assuming he's talking about Tuatele.
Yeah, I think he's still certainly on the board, but how high, I don't know.
I know. I know he had a down summer. They weren't very impressed at his camp performance, if I remember correctly. So is he high on their board? I mean, I don't know necessarily, but I mean, I would imagine he's still a take. I would imagine.
Yeah, you don't know just who's vaulted him. Maybe in the late summertime when Pickering, who we just talked about, committed to Mississippi State, maybe they said, hey, all right, let's put Tuatele a little higher on the board because he's a little more likely. But now you've gotten Pickering back on campus. He's committed to taking an official. So maybe that shifts. Once again. I think they're both actually tweeners, a little more athletic than you would think given their size. So they could I could very well see them projected at the same position. Well, kind of like what Quentin Williams does right now. Not necessarily a three-tech, can slide outside, can do a little bit of everything. I think both of those fit that mold as opposed to an Ishmael Sopsher, a little bit wider, a little bit more compact, kind of like a DJ Dale on the commitment list. I think those guys a little more inclined to play that true nose guard position for whatever it's worth in this current edition of the Bama defense. So I wonder how much Pickering himself could potentially affect a guy like Tuatele, and also the guy we talked about with Brian Peroni on Tuesday. The guy committed to Texas A&M, ironically enough. DeMarvin Leal, he's one that we know Bama has liked and tracked and pursued for a long time, and he's obviously another one committed elsewhere, but is he higher on the board than Tuatele? My gut tells me yes at this point. So a bit of a logjam there. I don't see them adding more than maybe one other interior guy. So unless there's a decommitment, which some people do expect.
Yeah, definitely. So then there's some more in there talking about who would be the top inside linebacker option if Bama misses on Dean and Henry.
Henry To'o. actually watched a little bit of that game last Friday. Came home from my game in Tampa, and that was a late game on. De La Salle beat Bishop Gorman, and he had really the fatal blow to Bishop Gorman as a running back. So how about that? You know, I think he's still much more of a linebacker and a guy who's more of a tackle-to-tackle guy, but showing some ability there in the open field. But if Bama misses on him and Dean, I think you tap to the reserve. I do think they want to bring in another interior guy. I don't think this is a situation where you just bail on the position like we may see Bama do since they do have multiple safeties committed. I do think you bring in another inside backer almost no matter what. So you go in state naturally, right? You go in state first. I mentioned Keyshawn Brown, who I'm going to see here tonight. Is he a linebacker on Bama's board? Is he even on Bama's board after the position switch? I'm not sure. There's been no buzz with Alabama and him of late. I'll confirm as much when I see him play tonight and hopefully speak with him afterwards. And then another guy in state who I think is a better prospect and a guy who may be getting a bump in the rankings here soon, who I'll see tomorrow night actually, is Kendall McCallum. You know, committed. He's talked about leaving the state almost throughout his entire recruitment. He's wanted to kind of get out there. Ohio State was his dream offer. It never came. So LSU swiped in for what could be the top defensive enforcer in the state of Alabama. He's trimmed weight. He was about 240, now in that 225 range, can run, and is just as physical at the point of attack as you could imagine. A lot. So Matt Wilson at the stage, I'm not sure was as physical as Kendall McCallum is right now with the Oxford Yellow Jackets. So he's definitely one that I'd keep an eye on. Bama never offered him before he committed to LSU. And like Dave said, you always want to flip one from Auburn. Well, I'm sure with the buzz LSU has, Nick wouldn't mind flipping an LSU commitment, especially in the state of Alabama, to kind of flex the muscle there. Early on, Bama was a school that if it offered and pushed, he would have jumped on board with. You wonder how true that is now. So if it does get to that point where Bama's looking in-state, Kendall McCallum, Keyshawn Brown, those are guys that I would keep a closer eye on in terms of true inside backers. Mohamoud Diabate is the guy they missed on who committed to Florida. Not a true inside backer. He wants to rush the passer. So I think he's a bit of a fallback option now that he's committed to Florida. I think if he was still on the market, he'd be the top guy to bring up in this type of question. But he's a guy, even though he's going to take visits, pretty solid to the Florida Gators. He's really buying into kind of making his own mark, leaving the state of Alabama, which is crazy because this is the third straight blue chip linebacker from Auburn High to leave.
Auburn.
It's not any one person's fault. And look, was Auburn pushing for Mohamoud more than Florida throughout the duration? No. At the very end, yes. But, Auburn was. Heck, I was told Bama was actually pushing more than people realized. But over the long haul, it was Florida. They offered when they were at Mississippi State. That was a school that he was inclined to for a very long time. But still, just the basic fact that 3 straight blue-chip linebackers from Auburn High School, none of them ended up at Auburn University, is just one of the most unbelievable recruiting stats in the last 5 years.
Most definitely. I can't believe they've missed on all 3 of them.
Which one hurts the most? Is it Rashawn?
I feel like
I'm going to go to, I'll actually be in Auburn.
I'm going to say Ruben.
Sorry, Bama fans. I'm going to go to Auburn on the way to Montgomery. I'm going to ask some folks it might get me punched in the face, but I'm going to ask some folks which one hurt more because, Ruben and Rashawn were both bona fide 5-stars, both top players in the state 1 year after the next. So
I think
the first one hurts, but, man, the second one, seriously, again?
I would say Ruben.
Okay.
I would say Ruben just because I felt like I would say Ruben because I feel like Auburn felt so strong about him at the time when he flipped to Auburn, I feel like they felt really good about it. I mean, he ended
Yeah, I
up
mean, he was committed. He was committed
yeah,
to Auburn.
he ended up at Auburn High School. He ended up from Georgia. I mean, there was a lot of things that said Auburn all like it just I felt like Auburn thought it was a lock, and then
Yeah, I mean, the kid grew up in the Auburn corridor. I mean, he went to Troup County High School, which is just over the state line, and then actually went to Auburn High School. So yeah, I could see that one hurting a little bit more. And he had a lot more buzz nationally
yeah,
than Rashawn Evans. I mean, they were both top 10 players in America, both damn good, both first round picks. But at the time and in high school, there was no doubt that Reuben Foster is one of the most famous linebacker recruits of all time.
yeah. So some more out of the live chat is have any new JUCO defensive tackle targets emerged?
Not that I'm completely aware of. Doesn't mean it's not happening. My brain has not shifted to the JUCO guys just yet. Usually with JUCO, you get the buzz with them in the summer because they can camp, and when they camp, I mean they're 19, 20 years old going against 17, 18-year olds. You want the JUCO guys to dominate, and that's usually when they kind of spike in the recruiting industry because they are able to flash that type of dominance. But early in the season, they're only a few weeks in, just like Alabama is. So I don't know if we've gotten to that point where 3 or 4 games of tape has really shifted the recruiting board. I'm not saying it's impossible, not saying it hasn't happened, but that hasn't come across my desk, if that makes sense. Although, Ishmael Sopsher's brother, his older brother, who is in junior college, Bama keeps missing on some guys. You never know. You never know how they treat that situation. To my understanding, LSU is the only school that has actually offered his older brother. So, but I think again, I mean, this Bama D class is huge. It's a huge group already, and we just talked about the guys that are on the board: Leal and Pickering and Tuitele and Sopsher. I mean, how many more spaces are legitimately available in this class? Even if you do lose a guy like Rashad Cheney, which a lot of people feel like is a matter of when and not if. Even if you lose that guy, look at the interior guys or potential interior guys you got with Alfano, with DJ Dale, with Justin Eboigbe, who are all rock solid to Alabama at this point and are all top 100 caliber players. So I'm just not sure how much there is. I mean, it's fun to talk about all these names, but you got to be realistic with the numbers. How much availability is there right now for the Bama class? 5 or 6 spots, maybe. And we're talking about multiple O linemen, running back, receiver, inside backer for sure, and maybe one more DB. Where is this spot going to emerge from if it's not a classic? Well, you lost a D lineman and now you add one.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't see that many spots being left. I mean, and then I know that I would definitely imagine that an inside linebacker is very high on that list. And then as far as that, I mean, maybe another offensive lineman and a DB. I mean, I think those would be the main points of emphasis. So we're gonna shift here and start giving. I'm gonna read you the Twitter questions instead of you reading them yourself. Since you're
Well, we're not trying to break the law too much out here.
since you are driving,
Is this illegal though? But is this illegal technically?
I mean, you're technically hands off.
I mean, my hands are free.
You're using hands free there. So, Luke Ferguson on Twitter asked, "Don't it doesn't have to be Bama related, but are there any senior prospects you see making big moves this season so far?"
Oh, of course, of course. We've gotten, a lot of guys. We wanted to see. If you have a big off season, we immediately wait for those first few games of your senior year to validate some of what you've done. This is an 11 on 11 game that we're looking at here, and the off season is great, and we go cover as many things as we can, but it's about the fall. It's about what you do in between the white lines with full gear on, with disrespect to the 7-on-7 crews out there. It's a necessary evil. That's all we got at those points, so we have to evaluate it. But there's no doubt that this is the stuff that weighs heavier. For instance, McCallum, who we just talked about, high star right now in 24/7 Sports. The last time we saw him was when I did a commitment video to LSU. Bigger, thicker, true inside backer, 235, 240 pounds, which is nothing wrong with that. But in this day and age, that's a two-down player. So what we want to see, and what we started to see at the end of the summer was, okay, he's moving a little bit better. He's dropped 10 or 15 pounds. And now as a senior, he's rushing the passer more off of the edge. And these are things that increase his value and now potentially make him a three-down player, like we see with the Dylan Moses, for instance, who on first and second down is playing that traditional Mike or Will linebacker spot, I should say. But on third downs, he's kind of become the guy over the last few games, putting his hand in the dirt or rushing off the edge. So that is added value. So I'm looking to see that in person from Kendall tomorrow night. And if I see what I think I'm going to see, he will be the next four-star prospect in the state of Alabama on 24/7 Sports. So we've gotten hints of that across the state, across the South, really, with guys who could potentially be involved with Alabama, like McCallum. Like I said with Keyshawn Brown, I want to see, hey, has he transitioned well enough to linebacker? So this stuff is critical in the evaluation process. You look at guys in state who have had big senior years so far. Talia Tagovailoa, I mean, this guy's slinging it all over the yard. That race there's two races that are incredible in the state of Alabama beyond whoever's going to win the state championship in 7A. Mr. Football and the first-team All-State quarterback in 7A. Those are going to be unbelievable races. And Mr. Football is every classification. So your non-7A guys like Bo Nix come into the equation, and that's obviously as heavy a hitter as you can add to that equation. So good luck picking Mr. Football between Bo Nix, Peter Parrish, Paul Tyson, Talia Tagovailoa, George Pickens, Javarius Johnson, Dzalen Worsham, Pierce Quick. He's going to get some love because he's been a high-profile prospect for so long. Good luck. To figure out there, but Talia, yardage-wise, is probably going to take the crown between those guys, only because I think Hewitt Trussell's a little bit more willing to run the football at this point. Yeah. And obviously, we shouldn't forget Robbie Ashford. Robbie Ashford, we've seen a junior win Mr. Football in this state in the last 2 years with LaDamian Webb. So if there's a junior who could do it, it would be, in my opinion, Robbie Ashford. Don't sleep on him having a huge back half of the season and a playoff run as Hoover looks to which sounds crazy, Hoover looks to move on from a 2-2 start, which is just weird to say. But obviously losing to Hewitt Trussell and St. John's Collegiate, no small deal there. So these quarterbacks are going to be great to track. How you pick a first-team 7A quarterback between Talia, Paul, Peter Parrish of Central Phoenix City, the LSU commitment, Robbie Ashford, who we just mentioned. Heck, if you look at other regions in 7A, you've got Jamil Muhammad, who's committed to Vanderbilt as a quarterback, who's putting up some good numbers after a slow start. I mean, that 7A, first-team quarterback's going to be crazy. I mean, you look at Caden Rose at Bob Jones, he's a guy who had a banner junior season in the Class 7A at quarterback. He's a guy with a Nebraska offer early on. I think UAB has offered him. He's a guy who's going crazy. So first-team All-State quarterback for 7A is going to be an absolute war. But right now you got to like the guy who won it last year, Talia Tagovailoa. I think he's going to get the yardage crown. I don't know, touchdown, he'll compare to a guy like Paul Tyson, who's probably a little bit more careful with the football, but both guys have been careful thus far, and both guys are having great senior years. Long way to go. Never sleep on Bo Nix in the Mr. Football race, and we'll see Bo play tomorrow night against that Oxford defense that has not given up a touchdown this year. So I'm assuming Bo Nix will be able to so it'll be a fun couple of days in Alabama, and we're right near the midpoint of the regular season, so a long way to go. But those are some guys that are having great years. I think Auburn commitment Javarius Johnson deserves some recognition there as well. For Hewitt, him and Dzalen Worsham have both kind of been the go-to guy for Paul Tyson. I think Javarius is faster, although he is smaller than DeZalen. So that's a fun situation to watch. How do you defend Hewitt Trussell? I don't really know at this point. So those guys are the ones that are impressing early in 2018.
Yeah, definitely. So we got one more on Facebook, and it comes
Facebook questions and everything. Man, you guys are great.
Comes from Shelby Ogletree and says, "What do you think the reason for Jacobs to be getting so many more starting carries than Damian? Is it a comfort with Tua just showcasing him this year, or I know he's a great runner, but Saban rarely deviates from the usual rotation when it comes to running backs."
Has Jacobs gotten more starter carries? I wasn't even really.
I don't think so.
I mean, Damian's been the first guy out there every game.
Yeah.
And Najee has been, I thought,
I think it's been a lot more of like we're seeing Jacobs a lot more because we're seeing a lot more second team everywhere. I mean, there's been mop up duty for the majority of the second half of all the games this year so far.
Yeah, I wonder if Josh Jacobs is playing the most with Jalen Hurts. I wonder if that could be the reason why his snap count might be higher. I would say it's definitely higher than Damian Harris. I don't know if he's eclipsed Najee Harris on the snap count, but I wonder if he's playing the most with Jalen Hurts, which he would be more familiar with compared to Najee Harris. So it looks like Damian, it looks like Bama's saving Damian. It looks like he's going to be the guy that if there's going to be a guy who needs to tote that thing 30 times in one game, he is still very much the most likely candidate. And he's definitely the one the staff trusts the most. And he's the senior. He's the veteran of the group compared to the other guys. He's the only senior, so he deserves that at this point. But I'm not sure if Jacobs has actually had more of those reps. I think it's been pretty even between the guys. And I also don't think it really matters a ton at this point. I think Jacobs gives you the most comfortable weapon if you're Mike Locksley and you don't know if it's a run or a pass, at the moment, but you look in the huddle and you see 8 in the huddle, he is probably the most flexible guy in terms of 50-50 between is he a good runner, is he a good receiver. I think both Damian and Najee are much better runners, although more than capable at receiving as well. So I think maybe that could be part of it, and Locksley has shown a very balanced approach in his play calling, so maybe he is more comfortable with Jacobs when the game is in the flow and when the game is, let's be honest, when the game is kind of already decided.
Yeah. I think once you get into the mix of deep into SEC play, I think you'll see that kind of slow down. Also, I mean, I think you'll also see a lot. I mean, I know a lot of people have been complaining about Tua not playing in the second half of games, and oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't transfer. He's not playing. Blah blah blah. I think you'll. I mean, obviously,
is that really a thing?
I mean, I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it. People saying, "Oh, I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't transfer because he's not playing in the second half." And blah blah blah. Yeah, look at last year. It was the exact same, but flipped. Jalen wasn't.
Yeah, he played all the second half.
Yeah, Jalen wasn't playing a lot in second halves, and he was playing second halves. So I mean, it's one of those things that I don't understand the logic behind a lot of that whole.
Yeah, I mean, we asked that, we put that poll out the other day about will he even play in the fourth quarter Saturday, and it was almost 90% no. So
yeah, I think
there's a group that's not really worried about it, but if there is some worry, that's the first I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it just the other day on Twitter. It might have been more of like an isolated thing, but
there's like several classifications for Bama fans, I think.
Yeah, there's the diehards. There's the there's the casual Bama fan. I feel like there's probably not as many casual Bama fans as there is like diehards. And then
yeah, but I don't understand. I mean, they're in fear of Tua transferring.
Yeah. So
the pessimistic group that is going to freak out no matter what group.
exactly. So
Yeah.
those are the questions that we had this week for question and answer. Seemed to slow down a little bit in the live room. So, and I think you're well. You seem like you're getting into some rough area as far as service wise.
We probably got wrapping it up. I guess
We're getting a little choppy. But
what are you feeling?
Say what?
Run through some SEC time stuff?
Yeah, some SEC picks. Yeah, we could go there. What do you think for the Bama Texas A&M game?
These 20-something spreads have just weirded me out recently.
They're so like I can't like.
I know Bama's good. I mean, there's no denying that. But it's just at some point you can't expect them to score 50-50 no matter what.
Every single game.
Does the A&M defense have that in just a couple of weeks and on the move? Maybe something close to that will be good enough to keep Alabama in the 40s. Maybe I don't know. I don't have that answer. I think Brian really opened me up to the vulnerabilities in that front seven, which makes me think Bama's going to run the football here. If not only to control the ball, but I think to keep it away from the guy who's been better than a lot of people would have imagined in Kellen Mond. So I think Bama runs the football, keeps the score a little bit lower, not as much of a track meet, and Bama wins somewhere in the neighborhood of 45-17.
All right, cool. It's a 26-point spread right now.
So they would actually cover in my score. All right, 45. Let's go 38-17. How about that?
All right. What about this barn burner of a game? We got Ole Miss at Kent State's coming to Oxford to play Ole Miss. It's a Ole Miss 28.5 spread.
I would not take the points because Ole Miss defense is the worst defense I've maybe ever seen. And Kent State's got a dual threat quarterback who signed with Auburn and was an Under Armour All-American, Woody Barrett. So he's going to have a fun day. I would imagine their offense is better than Southern Illinois, so I expect them to score at will. But offense will be furious after being shut down by Bama, and they will come out with a vengeance. Ole Miss is going to score almost 100 points in that game. They beat them, but they don't cover.
All right. So the next one, all right, how do you feel about 3-0 Georgia at 3-0 Missouri with Georgia minus 14.5?
Ooh, that's a fun spread. I think Georgia wins the game. I think Missouri covers. I think Georgia's secondary has been overhauled. They've got a freshman starting, former teammate of Pat Surtain and Tyson Campbell there. I think Drew Lock. Drew Lock's your guy, Kev. I'm gonna ride with you on this one. I think he keeps it close. It's at the zoo, as they say. I'm sure those fans will be ready to roll early and often. How's that not a game day game? That's a great game. Missouri is not terrible for those who have not checked them out. That offense can roll, and Missouri's always got some 3-star defenders who are going to end up in the NFL. So.
There's some defensive end that's going to come out of nowhere and be a first-round pick.
I don't know how good this Georgia offense is. They have not even come close to have being tested yet. So I think the Georgia offense maybe takes a step back, and that Georgia defense, that secondary will be put into its biggest test of the early season with Drew Lock. I think he keeps it pretty close, but Georgia wins in the end.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go upset. I'm gonna go Missouri beats Georgia.
Well, Drew Lock is your SEC
just because Drew Lock's my guy. I'm gonna go with it. Let's go. That's big, so I'm gonna go with it. And it's at Missouri. They play really well at home, and Drew Lock's been putting up numbers this year already. So what about South Carolina Vanderbilt at Vandy? South Carolina minus 2.5.
Wow, that is a pick'em game right there. it's just like we talked about Texas A&M. Can the Vandy defense that went up to Notre Dame and controlled the game, can that defense come back home and control an offense that's very different in South Carolina? I think it can. I think South Carolina was a bit overhyped preseason. I'm probably never going to trust a Will Muschamp team ever again. I'm going to go with Vandy to win it straight up. So I would take Vandy and the points. They get it done at home, and we start to talk about Derek Mason potentially saving his job because they should have beaten Notre Dame, who everybody always loves. So give me Vandy, anchor down. Hopefully they're doing a blackout or something cool.
Yeah, I hope they wear the Rising Tide jersey or whatever that is.
Yeah,
with
best jerseys in the
open water. I hope they're wearing the open water jersey with the blackout with the cool helmet. I hope they go for it. It's a 4 p.m. game, so you never know. All right, 3-0 Mississippi State at 3-0 Kentucky. Mississippi State minus 9.5.
Ooh, at Kentucky.
Yeah, at Kentucky.
Oh man, there's pretty good games this weekend. I think that Mississippi State offense is rolling. That running attack is very, very impressive. Running game translates. Defense translates. But as to where I think South Carolina's entire team was overhyped, I think this Mississippi State defense is overhyped. And Kentucky, I think Mississippi State wins the game, controls the game in terms of the flow with their running game, but I don't think they cover. I think Mississippi State wins that game by about a touchdown. So if you're a gambling man, take the home team. If you're just picking the game, take the Bulldogs on the road.
All right. Next one up is 2-0 Louisiana Tech at 3-0 number 6 LSU. LSU minus 21.
See, speaking of offenses that we don't really know about, LSU will win this game, but I think they have a little bit of a hangover. They went into Auburn, they had to put all their chips in to come back. Emotional game, emotional high, and for the first time all year, people are sold on the Bayou Bengals, and they usually trip when they have that type of hype. So I think they win the game, but give me La Tech to cover. I don't know if Jeff Driscoll is their quarterback in his 19th year of eligibility, but give me the Bulldogs. Are they the Bulldogs? Give me the Bulldogs.
Yeah, they're the Bulldogs. They're the Bulldogs.
Let's go with the red, white, and blue because I'm in deep south of Georgia. This is America. Go Bulldogs.
All right. How about 2-1 Florida at 2-1 Tennessee? Florida minus 4.5. No, yeah, Florida minus 4.5.
These are two very disappointing rosters when you think of those two brand names in the SEC East. It's kind of crazy. But that Tennessee roster is borderline embarrassing. They just lack talent. I don't really know. I'm not going to analyze too much of it. I think they got some dudes in the secondary. I like their group, so I don't know if the Gators will throw the ball well. But the Gators can run the ball. They got a lot of good running backs. Low scoring, ugly, just not a traditional Florida-Tennessee game. I think the Gators have a little bit more talent, and they escape with a narrow win. I would say give me the Gators overall. Give me Tennessee with the 4.5.
All right. The last one of the SEC games is, a 1-2 Arkansas.
Oh boy.
At number 9 ranked 2-1 Auburn. Auburn is getting 30 points. Auburn minus 30.
No, I mean Auburn's going to smoke them. They're pissed.
But
Arkansas
minus
can't
30?
Arkansas can't defend me running behind you right now.
Like I thought that Vegas has done really good with spreads so far, but Auburn minus 30, like I can't like.
Look, they'll be pissed, and they might be up 30 at the half, but it won't stay that way.
Yeah.
Gus and Chad are close. Gus still has love for his home state of Arkansas. Gus isn't going to run it up here. Gus will have a big lead, call off the dogs. One of these dual threat quarterbacks who are really young will come in and turn the ball over, and Arkansas will get some garbage points. Take Auburn in general. If you're a gambling man, take the Razorbacks. Gus will not embarrass his buddy.
Yeah. Is there still an Allen at quarterback at Arkansas?
No, I think they just switched quarterbacks. I just saw that tweet yesterday. So they're already bailing on their quarterback. So,
they're already,
they're going to be a little bit emotionally invested in the new guy. They're going to rally behind him, and I bet they keep it close early. Auburn opens it up in the second quarter, and Arkansas gets a couple of garbage scores late.
Yep, I think you're right on that one. So that's the SEC lineup this week. If we want to look at maybe a couple of the top 25 matchups around the country, let me see if I see anything that looks appealing. That might be some. Let's see here. All right, here we go. 3-0, number 8 ranked Notre Dame comes to Winston-Salem to play Wake Forest. Notre Dame minus 7.
Oh man, that spread is low.
I know. Notre
Dame played a clunker and escaped Vandy. They won't do that 2 weeks in a row. They'll be able to control the trenches against Wake Forest, who I thought had a good defense until Notre Dame Junior, which is Boston College, embarrassed them in the trenches. So if Boston College did it, I know it was a short week, but Boston College did it. Notre Dame has just better dudes across the board, and they want to do the same exact thing. I think they get it done, and I don't mind the 7. Lay the 7 with Notre Dame if you're putting a couple dollars on it. I think they win that game by double digits. Easy
All
win.
All right.
Wake's got a freshman quarterback, man. Come on.
Yeah, a true freshman quarterback. So let's go. Let's see. All right. So how good do you think that they really are? All right. So the 4th ranked Buckeyes are getting 37 points against Tulane. Minus 37 to Tulane.
Man, Tulane played UAB pretty close last week.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Does Urban Meyer – if Urban Meyer makes it about him –
does he try to
I like Tulane to cover this thing. I really do. But if Urban Meyer is a legitimate national champion coach and is the guy that a lot of outsiders think he is, I think Notre Dame or I think Ohio State can crush him. But I think Urban makes this about him, and I think Tulane keeps it close. I think there's a little bit too much emotion in that Buckeye locker room. And what is the spread?
Minus 37.
No, you take Tulane all day long at this point. Those are the best odds of anybody that I think we've gone over. They kept it really close against an explosive UAB offense. Obviously, Ohio State's more explosive, but Tulane's offense isn't terrible. So this isn't a one-sided game. This isn't a one-sided team. This feels like Miami versus Toledo last week. Miami's going to win the game, but Toledo's going to, make a couple plays here and there, and 30-plus is way too much.
Yeah.
So take the points with the green wave. Roll wave, as they say.
All right, we'll do a couple more, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Another intriguing one, TCU at Texas. TCU minus 3.
Give me the Horned Frogs. Should have beat Ohio State. Texas, I think, played a little above their grade against USC. They got USC at home, which was a big benefit. I think they have a tough time duplicating that effort. TCU is a good team.
Yeah.
TCU's defense is legit. Now, we say that every year, but their defense is legit. They can get after the quarterback, and Texas will go as far as the quarterback takes them. So give me the Horned Frogs straight up, and I'm not – that spread's not scary. Take the Horned Frogs no matter how you're trying to pick this one.
All right. Maybe the one that I do. Okay. No, the 24th ranked Spartans of Michigan State at Indiana, who's 3-0. Michigan State's 1-1. Michigan State -5.
Where is it at?
It's at Indiana.
Ooh. That is a tough one.
I don't know who Indiana. Let me see who Indiana's beat this year to make this 3-0 first.
Well, I think they beat Purdue.
They beat FIU, Virginia, and Ball State.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan State was slow out of the gates there. Did Michigan State have a game canceled or something? Why have they only played 2?
I believe they had a game canceled. Let me double check.
An extra week for Mark D'Antonio. Give me Michigan State. They're not gonna slip in conference. If you're gonna get Michigan State, it'll be out of conference. If it's gonna be a major upset, he knows Indiana. He knows what those guys are doing. He's prepared for the spread for the last few years. Give me Michigan State. The points don't scare me.
All right, and we'll wrap it up with the game day game of the week. Number 7, Stanford at number 20, Oregon. Stanford -2.
Yeah, so basically a pick'em game. Outson will be wild. Biggest game of the early head coaching career at Oregon for our guy Mario Cristobal. Stanford, now, we thought Stanford's defense was coming of age with how it shut down USC, but I think we've also realized since that the USC offense is not exactly what we thought it was going to be.
Nope.
Growing pains, and I think this atmosphere will be even more hostile for JT Daniels, more hostile for Stanford than JT Daniels dealt with at Stanford or at Texas. So I think you go with the Ducks, high-scoring affair. The Stanford defense gets exposed a little bit, and I think Bryce Love does his thing, but it's not enough. Give me Oregon, and then the points are not a big deal. Oregon by 7, so the points don't scare me. Mario Cristobal, big win, and he becomes a guy who we talk about as potentially a coach of the year leading up to that end of the season clash against rival Washington. Big week for Cristobal.
Nice. All right. I think that'll wrap up my top 25 matchups.
All right. You got any upsets in there?
Any upsets? Let's see. Not necessarily. I don't think any. I mean, Oregon. I think Oregon beat Stanford. I guess technically that's an upset. I'm gonna go with this one. My upset's gonna be my upset.
You picked Mizzou over Georgia. So
I picked Missouri over Georgia, and I'm gonna pick Arizona State over Washington, even though it's in Washington.
Okay. You're on the Herm Hive.
I like what Arizona State's done so far. I think the offense is coming of age, and I think they're actually playing a little bit of defense to be in the Pac-12. So I think you can win playing a little bit of defense in the Pac-12.
Bonus pick: Florida State, Northern Illinois.
Jesus. Florida State ?
Yeah, there's no ranking next to their name, so question mark is fine.
Florida State. It's Florida State -10 right now. So
yeah, that's got to be the lowest G5 spread they've maybe ever had.
For Florida State to be a -10 to a Northern Illinois, How about Syracuse? How about Syracuse -27.5 to UConn?
UConn's terrible. That is a big spread, though.
That is a big spread.
I don't think the Syracuse. Do we even know if the quarterback's healthy?
Oh, excuse my Excuse my daughter back there. No, I don't know. I haven't heard anything on whether he's healthy or not. And we're frozen, guys. John, you still there? All right, guys. So I think that's gonna wrap it up for us this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we kind of did this one impromptu, but thank you guys for tuning in. We had a lot of interaction. We had 20 people tune in. So thank you very much. And Garcia and Roberts, we're out. Thank you. Say bye bye. All right.